The Green Party of Canada is a political party and is also filled with people who are not as political as many other parties. Okay, so that's a base mark, a bench line, if you will. And if you're not so attached to power, you have more freedom. The environment is a very critical and fundamental issue that as a federal government, we need to be much more engaged in a conversation. We have to bring a lot more imagination to this conversation, because without imagination, I heard a senior bank person, a chairman of a bank, like about a year and a half ago on CBC, say something like, at the end, the reporter said, could you, is it possible we can meet our Kyoto requirements? And he said, I can't imagine how. If you were to ask a lot of people, they could imagine how. Let's talk to those people, because they're the ones that have something to contribute. It's not actually about me. I think it's time for more politicians to realize it's actually not really about you. We're in service of something, a larger federal and global conversation, and if we can't serve that conversation well, then we should be assessing how we're doing our job. There are bigger things at stake here.
What are the major local issues in this election?
Well, one of the major issues that people keep bringing up, which is actually not a federal issue, is the whole issue of transport and what is going to happen around the options for transportation in the city of Ottawa. So that's just coming up as an issue because of the timing of it. Federally, most people are actually referring to one issue is actually the lay of the land in terms of the electoral options. That's a big issue people are asking me about is, they need to vote well, and they want to make sure that they vote for a government that will serve them and their perspectives and the future of the country. Another big issue that I'm hearing a lot about is I'm hearing a lot about the notion of the tension between federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal, like the different levels of government. This is a very informed constituency, so a lot of people have a lot of experience with what's going on between the different government levels, if you will. A lot of people asking about that. And of course, the big ones that you see in the polls are things like people really wanting to know, what are we going to do about the environment? Trying to understand, make sense of the landscape of options around how to address the environment well, quickly, humanely. Also hearing a lot about things like the investment in the war in Afghanistan, and with the report recently being released, what kind of other ways could we have invested that money, and how could that be of service? That seems to be an issue locally. Is a lot of people seem to be telling me, I'm the Green Party candidate, they know we're not for war as a rule. So a lot of people saying, what could we be using that money for? So,
why did you decide to run?
Well, for me, it just seemed like it was an important thing to do. It's definitely an election that is full of important issues. I felt as though it was time for more women to be running and winning. And David was not going to run again. And he's done such a great job in this riding. It felt like it was important that someone step up who could honor the work that he's done and take his legacy forward. So I'd spoken to him about the work he'd done. I really think he's done a phenomenal job, and he's such a knowledgeable person and built a lot of credibility in this riding for the Green Party as a governing option. So that was important to me, and I was able to sort of organize my life in a way that I was able to run. So I run my own business, and therefore I started to cultivate an understanding with my clients that this was an important volunteer activity that might take a little more time than others, and they seem to support the idea as an important civic duty. So that was great. And then, of course, finally, my husband and both our families have been phenomenally supportive. So it just seemed, all the stars seemed to align in terms of making it a good thing to do. I have a lot of energy, so it was seemed like I could be someone who could contribute to this conversation and knock on a lot of doors and bring an inspiring message forward. So,
is the Green Party a one-issue party?
I cannot tell you how many times I hear that at the door. It's actually really funny to me. As you can see, I'm like, that is awesome. No. No is the very clear and simple answer. If we were a one-issue party, our platform would not be 106 pages. right? Vision Green would be much smaller. In fact, we covered the whole realm of what it takes to govern, and we've looked at what the first chapter of Vision Green is all about: a sustainable economy, and looking at what is important economically for a country. Federal economics is important to us because the way that we're governing our economy has huge implications for our environment, and we need to be much more mindful of that. We bring in each party has a sort of a fundamental commitment. Our fundamental commitment is absolutely to stewarding a natural environment that is healthy, well, and sustainable. And you will see that through our health policy, you will see that through our environmental policy, you will see that through our economic approach, our international relations. You're going to see that in everything we do. It's a foundational way of looking at how to do things well and how to be effective. It's no different than other parties which have a fundamental approach to looking at things. We have a fundamental approach. It is not one issue. It is a fundamental way of looking at things that will help us inform good decisions and effective decision making for generations to come.
How has your background and experience prepared you to be a candidate?
Well, it's I've spent my entire professional career, and even before that, working with large groups. A lot of my work has been focused on how do you mobilize people towards results that are effective, productive, and meaningful. And that's really my life work. Recently, I've worked on women's leadership mobilization. I've worked in the fields of global communities of practice and collaboration. I'm a professional facilitator that speaks at the International Association of Facilitators and helps people develop the capacity to design and deliver processes that are effective for decision-making, communication, mobilization, those kinds of things. So I'd say that's a significant piece. And then I'm also very actively involved in community events and quite an active volunteer. I like to get involved in a lot of different things and typically end up playing leadership roles. So one of the other things that I think people may find helpful to understand about my background is I really enjoy my board responsibilities for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. It's a role I play well, and I like looking at large picture issues. So how do you look at the budget of a multi-million-dollar organization with a large mandate and make sure that it's invested appropriately and effectively for the long term? And that, from what I understand, is a significant part of being a parliamentarian. So I feel it's prepared me quite well, and I feel excited about the job.
What has been the general reaction of the voters so far as you've been meeting them?
Well, people are actually pretty excited that we are in this election campaign and in strongly. And of course, with the first week of the election campaign and the kerfuffle over the national debate, we got a swell of support. Tons of people wanted to volunteer, take signs, get involved, help us win this campaign. And since then, definitely people are very, very interested to know what we stand for, where we stand on the issues. The response to me personally has been very strong. A lot of women are very excited to see another woman running for office. People are also pretty excited that it's someone a bit younger, I think. Although I get the impression people think I'm younger than I am. I'm actually almost 40, for the record. I actually have quite a lot of life experience. So, yeah, it's been very, very, very great. And it's just fantastic to see how open people are to meeting the candidate, hearing about what we care about, and sharing their ideas and perspectives. It's really invaluable. So I'm learning a lot in this process and really relishing the conversations we're having and hearing what people in this riding care about. It's been great.